Hello, I'm Dr. Robin Miller, and you're watching Health Day's conference coverage exploring research with the world's leading medical professionals. The American College of Cardiology, joined with the World Heart Federation, hosted its annual scientific session. This year, the session was held from March 4th to the 6th in New Orleans, where experts explored the latest science and innovation and learned about practice changing updates in care. For more details and other highlights from this year's annual session, I'm pleased to have Dr. Katie Berlacher joining us to share her impressions of the conference. Dr. Katie Berlacher is a board-certified cardiologist at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center and vice chair of the American College of Cardiology's annual scientific session. Dr. Berlacher, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
So, what was the general theme of the session?
This year's session is exciting because it is about science, it is about education, it's about health equity. So there's not one single theme, I would say, but many themes that integrate together to give us, hopefully, the best outcome for all of our patients.
There were many significant abstracts presented during the scientific session. Which ones are you most excited about?
The opening session for the late-breaking clinical trials was really exciting in that it really was a range of the cardiovascular field. So the first trial was about us using a new medication to treat hypercholesterolemia or high cholesterol levels. The second one was about a new structural intervention that will help us treat tricuspid regurgitation. And then the last thing in that session was about the treatment of cardiovascular disease associated with cancer therapy. So all three of those have the potential to really change the way that we take care of our patients and that we treat our patients in the future, and hopefully, fingers crossed, give them better outcomes.
So, in one study presented during the meeting, researchers found that restricting dietary sodium intake below the recommended maximum of 2.3 grams per day has no benefit and could even increase the risk of death in patients with heart failure. Are these findings surprising to you?
There's been hints of this in the data for some time now, and that study was really interesting in that it was a meta-analysis that looked at a number of different studies together to hopefully give us the best answer. One of the things that I think I, as a cardiologist, think about when I'm talking to my patients is that changing their diet may change the number of times that they are hospitalized or the frequency with which they are hospitalized, as well as the mortality. That study was really interesting in that they didn't find a difference in hospitalization, but they did find a difference in mortality rates. I think it's very telling. I think, it's the important information is really in the details though. So which patients is this most applicable to? And I think that is really what we need to dig into in the future moving forward to make sure that the right patients get the right sodium restrictions.
So, how can clinicians help patients manage their diet to ensure they consume a safe level of sodium?
I think the biggest thing is talking about exactly what that means. What foods have sodium in them? How do you calculate the sodium in your day-to-day diet? Those things are actually not common sense. So not only having your cardiologist talk to you and your cardiology providers talk to you, but also working with nutritionists so that they can help kind of log those things and help you keep a diet diary.
Hmm. So, researchers of another study presented some good news. The overall rate of heart attack related deaths in the US has declined significantly over the past 20 years, and the gap in the rate of heart attack deaths between white and Black people have narrowed by nearly half. What are these improvements attributed to?
Well, this was not a study that actually looked at the causation of those numbers, but I agree with you, really great news that we are making progress in the right direction to decrease the mortality here from a cardiovascular standpoint. I think there's two things. One is are less people dying from it, or are we keeping patients alive longer, right? Both of those things will change that number to what we saw. And I think probably at the end of the day, it's both, right? We have less people dying from their heart attacks because of better prevention efforts, better treatment, better in the moment hospitalization, right? And then also, at the end of that, we are able to keep people alive better, right? Cardiac rehab is wonderful. We've been able to implement that for more patients. Um, Long-term medication use, so secondary prevention, has become even better. Just like I was talking about for the late-breaking clinical trials, we have more options for cholesterol treatment. And I think we're starting to also understand some of the things that maybe were less well understood in the past, such as stress and sleep and how those things can affect our cardiovascular health. So my guess is it's a mix of all of the above. It's going to be hard to pinpoint exactly which one thing led to those outcomes.
So, what more needs to be done to continue to narrow the racial disparity gap, which is
Uh,
significant?
Man, if I had an answer for that, if I knew exactly how to answer that question, I think a number of different things. Again, there's no one single thing that we can do. But I think together it is about quantifying what those disparities are, first and foremost, which we've done a better job at, and then looking at how we as a society can break down some of those disparities so that we achieve equitable care. I think a lot of it has to do with community based care. A lot of it has to do with provider education, making sure that our implicit bias does not come forward, and making sure that we have resources for all patients of all races and all disabilities so that we can achieve health equity for everyone.
That brings me to one last question, which is women are not getting CPR as quickly as men on the street.
Yes.
What is that about?
Well, there are a lot of theories as to why women are getting less CPR. I think one of the theories is that it is under recognized. Heart attacks in women is under recognized. So, one possibility is that people don't think that this is a heart attack that a woman is having. Maybe they just passed out, and therefore I don't need to do CPR on them. I think there are some other theories that would be some fear of touching a woman on the front of her chest, and maybe that would violate them in some way. And that is a barrier to them receiving as much care. So I think those are probably the two most common theories that I can think of off the top of my head. My guess is there's probably more to it than just those two simple theories. But I think if we could start with attacking those, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. Dr. Katie Berlacher, thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
You've been watching Health Days conference coverage. Thank you.